Welcome to the Darkstream. I'm VoxDay, voxday.net, unauthorized.tv. Thanks for tuning in. As I mentioned previously, we are working on keeping a regular schedule here, so hopefully I'll be able to stick to it with reason. Audio good, video good, we are assured. And Wu-Tang Bear just made it in time, that's good. So again, what we're trying to do basically is stream more often, more reliably, keep it a bit shorter, keep it a bit more succinct, basically maintain more of a level of energy and hopefully cut to the chase a little bit quicker than maybe I'm inclined to do. A couple minor business things. On Castalia Library, we have announced that there's going to be retroactive backer possibilities for people who want to back the bindery now, but weren't able to 4 years ago. The Iliad and the Odyssey will both be offered for ordering at the same price that they were back in 2021. It's only going to be for a limited period of time, 2 to 3 weeks tops, because we need to decide how many we're going to print. And obviously this will help us do that. What we don't want to do is, print 20 or 30 extra and then have 50 people telling us, well, I would have liked one. I want to help, but nobody asked. So, and above all, we want to thank the backers of the bindery for being so patient and putting up with all of the travails of, losing the people running it, the bad advice from the professionals in the industry, 3 different locations. I mean, it's been crazy, but we've actually got, we've actually got books like this. This is a Pigskin Meditations. It's not stamped, but, we're actually getting this. It's not even cased in, but, we're producing the stuff. Here's one that's cased in. This one's in the black cowhide. So, and I just put out 9 book blocks for quotes and ordered a ridiculous quantity of pigskin. One thing that I should mention, and somebody had mentioned that they were very opposed to the idea of doing the homers in the pigskin. If you happen to be someone who has a philosophical or religious problem with pigskin and you don't want your books, shoot us an email. We will refund you. People that have subscribed were assuming that they were going to be getting the cowhide that we do. The pigskin is definitely better. There's no question. So we think that most people are going to absolutely love it. But there's a reason why Easton moved away from pigskin, and so if there are a few people who don't want it, we won't hesitate to refund you. Terrence says, which do you prefer, the new cowhide or the new pigskin? It's a difficult call. I think on average, I slightly prefer the new pigskin because I like the grain. The cowhide, the old cowhide, call it the Easton cowhide, that has a artificial pattern stamped into it, which is designed to sort of imitate the pigskin grain. It doesn't do it very well, but from a slight distance, you can see that that's the intention. The cowhide doesn't have any grain, so it looks more like the goat skin. It's not quite as soft as the goat skin, but in appearance it looks more like the goat skin. I like that the pig skin has a slightly different look than the smoother goat skin and cowhides. It's more what I'm used to seeing from the Franklin Library books. I mean, this has been a 5-year thing for me. I've been wanting us to do this. I even contacted. I found the original supplier of Franklin's pigskin, and unfortunately, they stopped doing it when Easton stopped ordering it. So, and I don't know why. I have my theories, but they're just theories at this point. Call Me Cordal says, "Hail Dark Lord." Indeed. What Taryn's referring to is there's a poll going right now on the Castalia Library Substack, which, by the way, if you have any interest in leatherbound books, you should be subscribed to, because that's where we put the updates. I don't like to be constantly talking about the same stuff on at VP, so we've got a site specifically for that. And so anyhow, there's a poll running right now as to if people prefer the old cowhide, the new pigskin, or the new cowhide for the Homer and for the Iliad. I will say that it's probably possible, now that I think about it, we can probably, like for example, if you're a backer of the bindery and you just, absolutely can't have the pigskin for whatever reason, we can probably arrange to do a special book or two in the old cowhide, because we have plenty of it around. We'll figure out a solution. Going forward, however, we're not going to do that for regular books. I wouldn't think. Maybe it's I mean, the thing is, now that I think about it, because we have our own bindery, maybe it's even possible. I don't know. Anyhow, the main thing is we'll figure it out. You guys have trusted us. You guys have relied upon us. We have no problem, making whatever arrangements we can, if we actually can do it. So now what I want to talk about tonight is, we've been talking about empathy and defining what empathy is, what it is not, and the fact that not that many men have it, and that women don't have it. Here is an absolute example of what we're talking about. Men are struggling. What does it mean for women? The BBC's Katie Kay speaks with NYU professor Scott Galloway about the state of young men in the U.S. and how it affects young women. It's very reminiscent of that famous statement, I think it was by Hillary Clinton, about how women are the most affected by war because they lose their husbands, they lose their sons in war. I mean, arguably one of the most tone-deaf comments of all time. And both of those statements, men are struggling, what it means for women, and women suffer most in war because their husbands and sons get killed. They're indicative of the fact that the female lens is always self-centered. It is always intrinsically solipsistic. And there's nothing that can be done about this. It is what it is. And it doesn't matter whether that makes you happy. It doesn't matter whether that makes you sad. It doesn't matter whether that makes you irritated. It is absolutely 100% observable by everyone in their daily life. We've all seen it. We've all seen it many, many, many times. And I would argue, and I have argued, that this is a good thing. RDI says, does that mean cold-hearted as well? No, not at all. Cold-hearted is a much broader term that encompasses a lack of empathy. But, you know, even if you don't have any empathy, you can still have a great deal of sympathy. You can still have, you can still emotionally project your own imaginations about their feelings. It's a term that I've coined, I call chrysopathy, which refers to the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Now, I've always been puzzled by the fact that Jesus would give that commandment and lay such stress upon it when it's so obviously flawed. You know, there would be certain things that I would definitely, at certain points in my younger days, wanted to do unto an unspecified member of the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders, that I would, there are things that I would have them do unto me that I'm pretty sure that they would not have me do unto them. And following the golden rule would actually be a felony, right? But then I started thinking about it in the context of the fact that most men and no women have empathy. And when I thought through that, I realized the reason for the golden rule, the reason that Jesus would give that instruction is because that's an instruction that everyone is capable of following. You know, not everyone is capable of empathy. Most people are not. And so if you're not capable of empathy, the best that you can do is engage in emotional projection. Put yourself, imagine yourself in their situation. That's the best that you can do, because you can't understand what their actual preferences are. You can't understand what their actual perspective is. You can't imagine how they actually feel in that situation. The best that you can do is imagine how you would feel in that situation. And that's a good thing. Doing that is a good thing. Is it a positive thing? Is it as good as the empath's ability to actually know? No, of course not. But Jesus never asks us to do anything we can't do. You know? And so I think that for most people, forget about empathy. Just forget about it. Focus on the golden rule. But do so with the understanding that what you imagine their feelings to be may not actually be their feelings, that their fundamental wiring may be sufficiently different than yours, that in the same situation they feel differently than you do, and therefore listen to them when they tell you otherwise. You know, for me, being a highly empathetic person myself, and also knowing that other people are not, I tend to find it very irritating when I see them rejecting my explanations of my own feelings. I find it very annoying when they try to explain to me what my actual motivations must have been, because they imagine how what their motivations would have been were they in the same situation making the same choices that I did. Now, as anyone who has ever worked with me can testify, people very, very rarely are correct about my motivations, my objectives, what I'm thinking, how I'm thinking. You know, I work with some very smart people. I mean, we're talking, you know, fraction of the top 1% smart people. And even they have found, you know, they're used to finishing other people's sentences for them. They're used to anticipating what other people want. And it tends to go really badly when they do that with me, because they don't have the ability to. I think differently. That's where we get into the whole VHQ versus UHQ, right? And so when you look at so that's where it's very frustrating for anybody, not just somebody who is empathetic, but it's frustrating for anybody to have somebody projecting their own feelings onto your situation and then trying to tell you that your feelings are not real, trying to tell you that your feelings are wrong, trying to tell you that you don't actually feel A, you really feel B. That's the downside. That's where we cross the limits of chrysopathy or chrysopathy. I don't even know what the pronunciation is. Is empathy strictly a Sigma trait? Definitely not. Sigmas are not necessarily empathetic. Alphas are reliably empathetic. Bravos also tend to be empathetic. They have to be in order to fulfill their roles. The alpha pays it, and most deltas don't realize this, and definitely women don't realize this. Most alphas pay tremendous attention to how other people feel. They actively manage how the subordinates in their hierarchy feel. The Bravos, one of the Bravos' main roles is to constantly be taking the temperature, the emotional temperature of people in the hierarchy for the alpha. And then the Bravo will also often let the alpha know, hey, we have a problem. Joe Delta is feeling unappreciated. And that's when the alpha the empathetic alpha will go, and alphas are much better than this about sigmas than sigmas are, because they are creatures of the hierarchy. So they understand and accept as part of their everyday responsibility the need to pet people on the head, pat them on the back, give them an inspiring compliment or two. I mean, think about this. Think about the best boss you ever had. How many of you would say how many of you would say that the best boss you ever had did a pretty good job of understanding your mood and stepping in and taking action? Doing something to buck you up, to lift you up, to inspire you. And then think about why they did it. How did they know to do it? Weren't they paying closer attention to you than you are to them? Weren't they paying closer attention to you than your coworkers were? So like the captain of a soccer team. Exactly. The best captains are always alphas. I've had the fortune in my sports career to have played soccer under two excellent captains. Ironically, they're both named Alex. Different countries, different languages, different styles. But they were inspirational leaders. They took responsibility for everybody on the team, and they always had a way of maintaining their high social position and keeping you in your place, but they always did it in a way that was non-insulting. The second one, he'd always keep he looked kind of scary, and he'd like always seem to be kind of glowering a bit. And so sometimes you'd find yourself kind of like, the whole team would kind of be on their toes a little bit. And then he would turn to someone and say something kind of gruffly and like a criticism type thing. And then all of a sudden he would reveal that what he had said was a joke, and he would burst out laughing, and everybody would laugh, and it would, like, whatever tension the team was having, about the game not going well, or being nervous before the game, or being annoyed because they weren't starting or whatever, it would evaporate. And both those guys, my first captain led us to a conference championship, a regional championship. We ended up finishing third in the state. We won 2 titles under my other captain. And now that I think about it, there was actually a third alpha. I wasn't as close to him because I was just a practice squad member, but he was definitely an alpha. His name was Nicky, and he was kind of a same type of thing, kind of a gruff, angry looking guy. Definitely more the lead by example type, but again, unquestioned leader, and also really good at making people feel positive and needed. It really struck me because I didn't play on the team. They won promotion when I'd started practicing with them, and then the next year I practiced with them full time, and actually I was practicing with them both years now that I think about it. Anyhow, they got promotion, and a couple of years later, I moved up to the veterans after that point, and a couple of years later, the club announced that there was going to be a tournament of champions, and they invited all the teams back that had won a championship, had won a promotion. And so there was actually a team that was, from like maybe from the 80s. All the players were like in their 60s and 70s. And it was really crazy because they had this white-haired goalie who looked like he was like a little bit hunched over. I mean, he looked like the wind would blow him away. And then the first time I saw somebody take a shot, and the guy just like leaped on it like a panther. He was incredibly spry for his age. And I wasn't surprised to hear that after he had played with our team, he'd actually gone up and played professionally for FC Zurich. So anyhow, I got suited up with, my veterans team had won 2 promotions by this point. And so we were invited to this tournament. And so I'm there, I'm wearing the black uniform of our veterans team. And Nicky from the first team, he comes over and he says, "Hey, what are you doing wearing that black jersey?" And I said, it's my team. And he goes, "Oh, no. You were with us. You were on our team, and you were with us before you were with them. Take that black jersey off. Come on over here. Put on one of these green and white jerseys." And I have to tell you, I mean, remember, I was a practice player. I never played in a single league game. I played in a couple friendlies, a bit. All I ever did was play in practice. Granted, it was the first team, so it was 3 times a week. It was very intense. I played hard, but I was not good enough to even be a bench player on that team. So to have the captain come over and say, "No, you won the championship with us. You're on our team." I mean, you can imagine how that felt. It felt great. I did. It was actually a good move on his part because, as it happened, of course, I knew my veterans team really well, and I ended up scoring the first goal against them, which I got grief for like 3 months afterwards. But that's what an alpha does, And it's not like they particularly needed me. Like I said, I wasn't even good enough to play on the team in the first place, right? But or at least to start on the team. And so that's what leaders do. That's what alphas do. He's like, "Hey, you're part of my hierarchy. Maybe you're a lowly member of it, but that's still important. And you need to be with us. I mean, I've never forgotten that. I've never forgotten how that made me feel. And I think that is probably one of the many events that went into me learning, figuring out the social sexual hierarchy. Because, most people tend to think of alphas as being narcissistic. They're not. Alphas are way, way less narcissistic than deltas or gammas, because the alpha can't really do his job very well. He can't lead very well. He can't manage a team very well if he's only thinking about himself. And that's why you have that situation where sometimes the star players, they want to make them captains, they want to make them leaders, but they're not. Case in point, Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson was a captain of the Seahawks, and yet everybody hated him. The whole defense didn't like him. And, he wasn't an effective leader at all. And that's probably one reason why the Seahawks only won one Super Bowl title when they had the talent to they should have won at least 2, could have won as many as 4, right? Nicole suggests maybe calling the alphas narcissistic is projection. Probably. But I think that it's partly that, but I think it's more because alphas do talk about themselves a lot. They beat their chest a lot. They're constantly measuring themselves against everyone else, slapping down challengers. I think people confuse that behavior with narcissism, but it's not. It's just necessarily policing the hierarchy. Ludwig says most people use narcissism to mean I don't like them. Yeah, that's correct. I mean, most negative titles, if you think about it, Big Bear and I were talking about this. Practically every word means one of 4 things. That's cool, that's lame, that's attractive, that's not attractive. All the slang means that. One of those 4 things. Nothing else. There's no other meaning that's attached to it in most people's conceptions. Because rhetoric is limited. Rhetoric is very limited. Russell Wilson's wife is also a tell that he's not an alpha. Yeah, there's not a lot of question about who's running that relationship, is there? Trump is not a narcissist. And so, you look at that behavior. When does a narcissist say something like, I take these arrows for you? He basically says these arrows are not aimed at me, they're aimed at you, but I'm happy to stand in their way and take them for you. That's not narcissism. That is a leader demonstrating his willingness to sacrifice for the people he's leading. And that's that's not something a narcissist can even conceive of. Cordell says, I'm a Delta and I have to try to read the room a lot with my apprentice at work, and it's a pain. Yeah, Deltas don't like to have to think about anybody else. They want to think about their job. They want to think about their job and only their job. And that's not a bad thing. That's why Deltas do the best jobs. That's why we want Deltas fixing stuff and making stuff and doing what they do best. I missed a question here from, what's the difference between having empathy and being observant? Because no amount of being observant is going to necessarily allow you to correctly read other people's feelings. If an empathetic person is observant, And they're two different things. I'm empathetic, but I'm not necessarily observant, and I don't necessarily care. Empathy doesn't mean you care at all about what the other person thinks. I usually know what the other person thinks. I usually know what the other person feels. Frankly, I don't want to most of the time. You know, I'm not trying to manipulate them. I'm not trying to get anything out of them. So, you know, empathy is in most cases a burden. And if people who are both highly empathetic and highly sensitive often have to learn how to like turn it off so that they're not feeling other people's pain all the time. And fortunately, I'm not highly sensitive, or at least I learned not to be highly sensitive anymore. And so my parents tell me that I was when I was young, but I learned not to be at a relatively young age. And that's been a real gift, because you don't get caught up in it, you don't get swallowed up in it. And but if you're not empathetic, that's when being observant becomes particularly important, because you can practice the golden rule, you can be chrysopathic, but you need to be observant so that you recognize and understand when your emotional projection is leading you to a false conclusion. So, anyhow, we're just about to, we can bring it to a close now. But I have did Bill Clinton really feel everybody else's pain? He probably did. I don't think that was a false boast at all. When you look at what a effective seducer he was, and I have secondhand knowledge of people who didn't like him at all and who were politically opposed to him, telling me that he was the most charismatic person they've ever met. So I suspect that Bill Clinton probably is highly empathetic, and he is a poster child for the fact that empathy is not morality. Empathy is neither good nor bad. It's simply an ability. Nicole says, women with zero empathy and no Christian guidelines seems like why we're having so many issues. Precisely. Women have no empathy, and all of their parental guardrails and societal guardrails have been removed. And so you have basically a bunch of solipsistic, effective sociopaths running around guided solely by their feelings moment to moment. It's not a big mystery, but that's also why the absence of female empathy is a very good thing, because women would tend to use it to the harm of others. Yes, if you obviously haven't been paying attention, I've actually posted about the Dora the Explorer explanation of Sigma. As a general rule, did you see is not a good question. Even if I don't see something that everybody else on the internet has seen, typically I'll have like 20 people email it to me, just FYI. So anyhow, before I leave you tonight, I'm going to play you a kind of a related song, actually. This is one that I wrote a while ago. It's called This Crack in My Heart. And in some ways it might be addressing the female lack of empathy, because it's an explanation of how a man might feel about a woman. And there's sort of the implicit recognition in retrospect, because wasn't thinking about empathy when I wrote it, but you definitely get the sense that that the woman doesn't know it, right? So anyhow, so let's find that, and we'll go ahead and fire it up. This is, like I said, it's a remake of a song I did last year, but with a new version, and with a new version of Suno 4.5. It absolutely had to be done, as I think you'll recognize in a minute when you hear how good the guitars are now. So this is Soul Sigma, This Crack in My Heart.
In the shadows of the evening, my mind breaks down unreasoning. She stands undimmed by darkest nights, a vision in gold and blinding light. Like whispers on the air, with every step a silent prayer. I'm caught between desire and pain, a love so pure and yet profane. I've got a weakness you can't see, it's her beauty that's breaking me. Every time I'm torn apart, I'm left with this crack in my heart. This crack in my heart. Her eyes, they tell 1,000 tales of promises behind her veils. I'm just a man who's torn in two by storm and gray and blue. I've got a weakness you can't see, it's her beauty that shattered me. Every time I'm torn apart, I'm left with this crack in my heart. This crack in my heart. She rises to the highest heights. She's the dream that haunts my sleepless nights, a sideways smile that flays my soul. Her beauty never leaves me whole. I've got a weakness you can't see, it's her beauty that's killing me. Every time I'm torn apart, I'm left with this crack in my heart. I'm left with nothing more than this. I'm left with nothing more. I'm left with nothing more than this. This crack in my heart.
So that was Soul Sigma's This Crack in My Heart. Haven't released it yet. Don't even know if I will get around to it. I mean, I'll probably at some point in time release it to UATV here. But the next Soul Sigma album is actually going to be 100% Byronics. And that's actually going really, really well. So Silent Draco says, "Oh ho, very good remake. Like the guitar work and the lyrics are very good." Yeah, I mean the sound. Suno has gotten to the point where the sound is bordering on the professional. It still needs to be, it still needs to be auto mastered a bit, but just to get the volume straight. But other than that, I mean, I've had a professional engineer listen to one of the new songs, and he was just, I think it was a Flow River Speak Water, and he said, there's nothing I can do. There's no audio improvement to make to it. Yeah, go ahead and ask a Booster Patrol question, Cordell. That's fine. John and I are actually working on a Soul Sigma original song, organically. So, because that is owed to the backers. By the way, here's a question. I'll throw it out there for those who backed the first Soul Sigma album. Are you guys interested in having me do something similar in a few months for the Byronics album, or is that just not of interest? So, let me know what you think. Because I really appreciate the support. It made it easy for me to make the decisions to hire the engineers and really go for the top level stuff. Did you ever start that little leather book side project thingy? Well, we're going to do the little leather books with the lyrics, yeah, but I have to get that one. Can I change my song to Sunglasses at Night instead of the Genesis song? I would think so. I'll check with John, but I think there's a problem. Do you think there's any chance for AI songwriters to make it to the charts? They already have. They already have a lot of them. First of all, some of the stuff that you're hearing recorded, I wouldn't say a lot, but at least some of the pop that you're hearing recorded, I know was originally composed in Suno. I could tell. But I know that there's at least one group that was up for a Grammy, and it's a fake group. Everything's done in AI. So maybe they record vocals over it. I mean, it's an organic AI mix, but it's not a legitimate organic band. If you listen to we'll address this at another time. I've done it already once, but I'll do it again with another example. If you listen to the difference between something done in Suno 2.0 or 3.0 and something done in Suno 4.5, which is 13 months later, the difference is absolutely stunning. It's absolutely astonishing. Is Cactus Eater Bear covering Sweet But Psycho still a possibility? I don't know. You'd have to ask her. It was meant as a joke about how the library projects are such a huge part of your life now and started almost on a whim here. Oh, yeah, but that's how the best things get started, because they're things that you enjoy. They're things that you love. I mean, I deeply, deeply care about our leather books. I'm actively thinking about it every day. I enjoy thinking about it. I enjoy working about it. And the same thing with the music. I mean, with music, a lot of people don't realize how involved in music I've been. But my fundamental problem has always been that I needed other people, and now I don't. I mean, look at how many songs are up on Voxophonics now. I think there's 44 songs up there now, and that's not even half of the songs I've done. I mean, I'm at like Prince levels of productivity here. And obviously I don't have 1/1000th the musical talent that Prince did, but I might actually be a better lyricist. Maybe. I would say on average. Some of his best stuff, no. But so anyhow, if you love something and you can execute, it really gives you the chance to accomplish more than you otherwise would. And I mean, for me, the single hardest thing with regards to the music is to stop working with it and go to bed. You know, I mean, you know, tonight I'm getting better now, and thanks to the UATV devs. The UATV devs have improved the publishing, made it easier, and so you know, I'll get this published as soon as it's done, get it up there, and then I have maybe 45 minutes, half an hour to maybe work on a track or two. And you know, like this remake was something that I did. I think I did it this afternoon. You know, and as people who have experimented with understand, ROI says the song structures are there. You have a great awareness of what makes it work. Well, it's what my friend Paul calls a producer's ear. You know, a lot of people who erroneously dismissed AI music as, oh, you give it a prompt and push a button. They don't understand that's not how you get good results. In fact, I'm going to put this up on the blog soon. Somebody actually asked me, they said, well, what are you doing for prompts that is giving you the results that you're getting? And I said, it's not the prompts. It's the lyrics. I write the lyrics, and the structure, and that provides the song with structure. You know, you're telling it verse here, bridge there, etc., etc. But also it's using the lyrics as a prompt. I can put a song up there with no prompt at all, just the lyrics, and it'll usually do something that is appropriate. Now, where the prompt comes in, and I should do a stream about this, where the prompt comes in is that's where the style comes in. So here, I'll show you. Let's go. We're going a little longer here. My apologies. But this is the kind of thing I like to talk about. Okay, so I'm going to fire this up. This is an older version, so the quality is not going to be as good. I'm just warning you. But that's actually useful for you to see as well. So this is an older version. So the lyrics are very slightly different. The quality is going to be different, but you'll hear the difference. And what the difference is I gave it prompts telling it I wanted a very different style. So let me see if I can find it here. So, I mean, you've heard the two different versions of, or you've heard the different versions of Ghosts of Bangkok. That's one example. Here's another example. But you've just heard Crack in My Heart. So this is probably more useful. And this is actually the original version that I did because I was intending it as a much softer song. Okay, here it is. All right.
In the shadows of the evening, my mind breaks down unreasoning. She stands undimmed by darkest night, a vision in gold and blinding light. She moves like whispers on the air, with every step a silent prayer. I'm caught between desire and pain.
Oops.
Torn apart, I'm left with this crack in my heart. This crack in my heart. Her eyes, they tell 1,000 tales. promises behind her veil. I'm just a man who's torn in two by a storm in gray and faded blue. I've got a weakness you can't see. It's her beauty that's killing me. Every time I'm torn apart, I'm left with this crack in my heart. This crack in my heart. She rises to the highest heights. She's the dream that haunts my nights. A scornful smile that plays my soul. Her beauty never leaves me whole. I've got a weakness you can't see. It's her beauty that's breaking me. Every time I'm torn apart, I'm left with this crack in my heart. I'm left with nothing more than this. I'm left with nothing more. Ooh, I'm left with nothing more than this. I'm left with nothing more. I'm left with nothing more than this. This crack in my heart.
So, what you're hearing there, somebody said, does it really work? Does it really, is it crazy that it works with the same lyrics and different styles? But it wasn't just the same lyrics. It was exactly the same structure. The guitar solo was the same length. I think if you look at the timestamps, the songs are like 2 seconds different in length. And so, now it's true, almost exactly the same lyrics. Sometimes you have to modify the words just a little bit in order to, because the slightly different timing and the different pronunciation of the different vocal style means that you need to tweak the lyrics a little bit. Like for example, there, so it was a storm in gray and faded blue. Whereas in the other, in the harder, more guitar focused version, it had to be changed to storms in gray and blue because that fit the syncopation of the drum beat. Whereas the other one was necessary for the syncopation of that drum beat and the slightly slower pace. And so, this is the kind of stuff that matters a lot. And like with Book of Ephesians, the version that I did that was like a gospel rap, the version that came out more like Kid Rock, and then the version that came out like, I don't even know what to call it, Linkin Park or something. Exact same words, even similar musical stylings, but it has a fundamentally different effect. And so, those things matter. And that's why I disagree so much with people who just say, oh, well, it's just pushing a button and hitting a prompt and all that sort of thing, because I don't think that's true. Anyhow, thanks so much for tuning in tonight. I guess we did go nearly an hour in the end, but c'est la vie. Anyhow, encourage everybody to get resubscribed to UATV, get signed up with the new system. It's going to take a while, but we are building back up. We're going to get back to where we were and more. And have a good evening. I'm Vox Day, and this is the Darkstream.